This might be yet another matter that everyone as cousin knows about, but I nonetheless thought it might be important to bring it to your attention, and that is the new multiclassing implementation in Baldur's Gate 3. Now right out of the gate, the original source for this was in Italian, which I happen not to speak, so I'm availing myself of a translator, and it might not be entirely accurate, but I'm assuming the gist of it is, and if so, oh boy, multiclassing has taken on a whole new dimension in Baldur's Gate 3. So in similar fashion to the other video in which I covered an article, it's basically a Q&A. So let's get started. We would like to start from multiclassing, given that in Dungeons & Dragons rule set, its use is rather limited, certainly more than it was in the Divinity system. How did you approach it? Did you make it more flexible and interesting in any way? And Nick Petchinen, who's the lead systems designer at Larian, responds the following way: we've changed a couple of ground rules, just to remove possible friction with multiclassing. If you know the rules of the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons, you surely know that in order to multiclass, there are stat limits that you must respect. We've removed them, and there are no more stat requirements. And you can make a character with multiple classes at any moment. There's even an achievement that requires you to get to level 12 with a level in every single class. Of course, it will be very difficult for some players, but it's been made possible by this removal of limits. During the playtest, we saw that many of the players eager to multiclass already had a clear build in mind to use, perhaps following the more impactful tabletop ones. Newbies to the game, on the other hand, usually kept the chosen class from start to finish. We designed the level up screen so as not to overemphasize the presence of multiclassing, because we realize that it is a feature mainly sought after by experienced players. The other thing we've changed is how magic users make use of spell slots, making it less punishing to level more than one magic class. One issue with multiclassing is that if you multiclass early in the game, you don't get strong abilities like Fireball at the same level as a pure class. But we wanted players to be able to multiclass from the start of the campaign without having to necessarily wait for the advanced levels, so it was the case to revise the use of resources a bit. Another thing we've been working on a bit out of the box is the magic items in the game. Various objects have been designed or introduced with multiclassing in mind, and we put them in the game thinking, okay, this will really help a specific combination a lot. An example of this is the intellect circle that is already in early access, which sets your intelligence to 17, which is useless for classes that already use it. But for martial classes that may not have invested in that stat and want to multiclass, it can be essential to not miss out by choosing a second class with completely different main stats. Now I can imagine that some people will love this and others will hate it. But this change, it strikes me, seems to really tell us that Larian wants to support as much choice as possible in the game with as few constraints as possible, even if that flouts some of the basic rules of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And of course this is sure to upset some people. It even seems as if Larian really wants you to multiclass on some level. Now the concern people have, which is reasonable, is that given the fact that you can multiclass without any stat investment, and you seemingly keep your spell levels as you advance, well, if that's the case, then that would just be OP. What we don't know is why someone would still opt to go for single player if multiclassing is really that easy and requires minimal stat investment as well as continued spellcasting, because it would literally become the best option for everyone, because single classing would be a disadvantage. But I doubt that Larian will make it that easy for people and completely break the system that way. I just can't imagine it. There have to be incentives for both single classing and multiclassing, though the real question is balance, because at the moment, it seems based on this information, as if multiclassing will be the path favored over single classing overall, and a perfect balance might be impossible to achieve. The problem with this, unlike the old and alternative attribute system, is that here there appears to be no choice. So if you're a traditionalist, or a stickler for the rules as they exist in 5th edition, there probably is no way around this, and you will have to multiclass in a way opposed to the traditional rules, though modders will likely add a fix to this given sufficient time. Personally, I favor flexibility as long as it doesn't violate every rule in the book, so I'm basically okay with this, as long as there's still good incentives to pursue single classes. But more importantly, I'm intensely interested in your take here. Do you like these changes, or do you despise them? Or are you like me, somewhere in between? Do let me know in the comments section. And before I go, I'd like to invite you to my Discord where you can discuss Baldur's Gate 3 with like-minded people, as well as other RPGs. And as always, thank you for tuning in. And if you could leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, it would be much appreciated, as it really helps out the channel. And I'll check you out next time. Take care.